And welcome, everybody. You have arrived on the live stream of Talk About Your Community. I'm Todd Nielsen with Clocktower Advisors, your host of this Monday, Wednesday, Friday podcast, video live stream that has only been on Fridays lately because it's a busy season with all the online community conferences that have been happening lately. But I'm glad you're here. Congratulations, you've made it to Friday. I'm sure that feels good. And I would love to hear from anyone who is able to drop in on the chat. I do look at all the comments and definitely try to respond as people drop in to say hello. So a couple of just quick announcements before going into the main topic today, which is tech trends in online community platforms. I did want to mention a couple of upcoming events that I've got on tap here. The Super Forum event, Super Forum, which is put on annually, had been by Vanilla, but now Vanilla is also Higher Logic, is going to be running from October 19th to the 21st next week. And it's going to be an amazing star-studded event with all kinds of people from the community space. I'm going to be a presenter there on the 20th with a co-presenter, Eric Johnson of Aurora WDC. We're going to be talking about a talk titled Tokenomics, a pursuit of community influence and recognition. We'll be giving a little bit of background about our experiences trying to implement and integrate the whole idea of NFTs and tokens into an online community experience. It is geared for beginners, but if you are already doing things in this space and you've got some expertise to lend, I would encourage you to sign up for this free virtual event. Again, Super Forum, you can find the link for it out there just by doing a quick Google. But I'll try to remember to put it up in the chat as well. Also, the same day, I'm going to be on at 8 a.m. Central Time for an event called ComVisage 2021. I'll be presenting on Consumer Connect, Cultivating Brand Communities. It's with a university in India. So I'm really excited I always love those international conversations because I get all kinds of new interactions and ideas at those times. And then finally, this one just came on my radar, and I'm really stoked about it. CMX is putting on an unconference event on October the 26th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central Time. And I love unconferences because they're just open, unstructured. You come in and whatever topics are resonating with people that day, you have people that you identify as facilitators, you convene the conversations, and you just do the stuff that's relevant to the people who are right there. And the rule of the unconference is it's not like the Fight Club. If it's not relevant to you in that particular moment, you vote with your feet. You go to another breakout room and have a conversation there. So that's going to be a really cool, exciting event. I want to dive right into our topic because my guest Tina has been waiting very patiently in the wings here. I would like to introduce to you Tina Amper, and Tina is the founder of the Community Management Institute. She's an absolutely wonderful, wonderful person, and we've had some terrific interactions on the panel discussion for Grazini Interactive that we were both on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday already? It seems like it's forever ago. Hi, Tina. Great to see you.
Hi, Todd. Hi, everyone.
So glad you could join me here today, so that I'm not just muttering to myself about technology. Really excited to have you on. Do you want to maybe give a little bit of background about yourself and your origin story with getting involved with communities?
Sure. Today, I'm a community strategist and consultant. I'm an advocate for community management education and credentialing. So I built my first community 9 years ago. I was on sabbatical in my home country in the Philippines after having worked in tech in San Francisco and California and traveling. I took a sabbatical in the Philippines, and I just started doing meetups there to try and get to know the tech community. Little did I know that I was building a community. I started just getting to know people and teaching people, encouraging people to enter ICT careers. And it was actually the members of the meetup who said that they wanted to organize a startup weekend workshop. At that time, I had no idea what a startup was. I was a corporate geek. And so we learned about it, and we started organizing startup weekends in the Philippines. And a few years later, I ended up being an advisor, organizer, and helping people organize like over 18 Start Weekend workshops around the country. It was kind of insane. But the government recognized our work and partnered with us. And our biggest event for my nonprofit was called Geeks on a Beach. It's an international tech conference held at a beach resort in the Philippines. So that was fantastic.
I absolutely love that idea.
I came back to the US 2 years ago. I loved my work in the Philippines, but I realized I needed to get more deeply embedded in the tech industry. I missed the intellectual challenge, and I wanted to have super internet all the time. And so I came back to the US 2 years ago, and I'm now based in Houston. Since coming back, I have helped a women's health nonprofit build their podcast audience into a community. It's called Femtech Focus. And then I also do consulting work now. I did some work for Common Room on the community management education space. So all my learnings, I try to put it in my blog called communitymanagementinstitute.com. Eventually, I want to do a conference and a mentoring session for community professionals.
Well, I think that sounds wonderful. The more opportunities we have to interact with each other, those of us who are living in this space of community building and enablement, then I think the stronger we all are. It's a rising tide for everyone. So thank you for the background. And
Sorry.
yeah, no, and I asked for it, and what we where you and I had the chance for this happy collision of ideas was at this event, Refocus by Grazidi Interactive, who's a partner of mine, on this past Tuesday, and Varun Luthra was our moderator and participant, I would also say. Unfortunately, it's like, I don't know, 3 a.m. for him right now, and he's getting so much deserved rest after a big week. But the topic of this panel was the culture of community tech, kind of looking at like how platforms are
Innovations
changing.
in community culture was the title.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Thank you. I'm terrible with thinking of exact names. I've always got to look at my notes. If you ever see me kind of looking aside, I'm looking at a crib sheet for all this. It's one of my downfalls as a video guy. But the interactions that we had talking about things like platform innovations around chatbots, AI, moderation, and how community managers are being affected and impacted by these technologies. It's an important conversation to have because this space is changing so quickly, and now that we had our conversation about it on Tuesday, I'm wondering if you've had any sort of afterthoughts, in the conversation, any new things that have occurred to you since the last time we were together. And I thought that might be a nice place to start the conversation. Any reflections on what we talked about earlier this week?
So in general, I'm still very excited about the community industry. So in my mind, there's 2 sectors of people that I'm trying to address. So there are the businesses, the companies that could benefit from effective community strategies, even if they don't have one yet and want to dive into it, right? And also on the other side, there's the community professionals like us, or the ones that are coming on board, the ones that are probably volunteer moderators right now and want to be in the community space. So the message for both of these, customers and platforms is that there is a better way to do community strategies, right? You don't have to struggle and try to figure out yourself. There are frameworks. There's a lot of free resources online. There's consultants like Todd that can guide you and help you.
And you.
And because if you're struggling to figure out why is everybody so excited about community, I have a community. It hasn't done anything for me. There are ways for people and for best practices that you can use that can help you. So reach out. Twitter alone, LinkedIn alone, search on the community hashtag. There's a lot of events going on. Eventually, you will find a niche, whether it be a course, whether it be a book, whether it be a podcast that you can use that can help you level up what you're doing. Because the community space, the work that community managers do is very stressful. It could be very stressful, just like any job, I guess. And if you have the right personality, you'll probably enjoy it. If you like working with people and problem solving, you'll probably thrive as a community manager, right? So that's also important to know. Are you, in the right mindset to take on the kind of work that community is gonna demand from you, right? Do you have enough to give,
Mhm.
right? And for the ones that are wanting to join in the community management industry as community professionals, there's many ways for you to go around doing it. You can continue to do what you're doing, listen to all these podcasts. You can take courses, you can apply for scholarship for courses. That's my usual secret weapon.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, but the message is the industry is hot because it is productive. It is a superpower. It's not easy, but there's people and resources to help you.
Yeah, well said. And I think you're right. I mean, it seems to me that there has been no better time to get involved with the world of community building. I was just I'm still reviewing past events. There've been so many events that have gone on. CMX and Grazidi and Marjorie Anderson had an event earlier, and like there's been just a slew of things happening as we've gotten into the fall season here. And what's so cool is that so many of these events have been just virtualized and they're free to attend. So, I mean, if you're looking to give yourself a boot camp in community strategy and to learn like what are the decisions, what are the goals, what's the process for building a community, there's just an embarrassment of wealth available. All of the things that are there. You have a blog, I have a blog. All the community professionals out there are really working hard to establish this space and to educate now, because I feel like so much of this was prompted by the pandemic and the subsequent move to virtual or hybrid, kinds of experiences. Now, it's almost as if, we were all the community people living in a little beehive and somebody whacked it with a stick. And now this is where, everybody's just going crazy. And it's a super fun time to be in the space. This is my favorite time ever to be in communities because of all the great thinking and all the great energy, that's in the space right now. And you among them. I'm grateful that I get to know you because of this too.
I do want to ask you, because I want to be practical for all our listeners, right?
Yeah.
All this fuzz, I mean, what's in it for me? So I wanted to ask you if you could share like some, or maybe one of the projects that you've done and how you've helped businesses and some challenges that you've discovered, and that kind of just a practical case study.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to choose from, but I'll share with you one that I keep coming back to because of the powerful nature of the community experience, and that was some years back when I was working with Feverbee in Rich Millington. I had the opportunity to work with a customer called the Truth Initiative, and the Truth Initiative is a government-funded, but I guess a non-government organization that received the tobacco settlement, to help young people stop smoking. Well, they some years ago they had started up, I think back in 2009, a long time ago. They started up a online community called becomeanx.org. In other words, become an ex-smoker. And they saw it as a community service. It wasn't super branded with the Truth Initiative or anything like that. The little logo was on there somewhere. But when I came in, that community had kind of grown wild for several years. And they had a group of dedicated volunteers in the space, but there was no community manager who was in the space. And they were in the position of wondering, like, what do we do? Because they had something like, I don't know, 250,000 members, maybe 500,000 members that were registered for the site, but the active users obviously it's a much smaller group. And they were looking at a point where their technology was out of date. They needed to rebrand a little bit and figure out what they were, and really focus in on what they were doing. But when I had the opportunity to come in and help them, I helped to focus their strategy for what they wanted to achieve and who they wanted to reach. And one of the problems was their demographic that they were reaching was a much older audience than the teenagers who they were trying to reach with their anti-smoking campaigns. And so I was able to work with them to be okay with that, to help them build out a business model that was going to work with this older demographics. In fact, it became something where they began to sell to universities and healthcare providers their quit smoking plan, because they had evidence-based approaches to help people quit smoking. And as part of this work, it involved me doing a lot of in-depth qualitative interviews with members of that community to find out what they liked, what they didn't like. I'll take, I just heard Seth Godin's talk with CMX this morning. I was just rewatching it, and I agree with him with what he said. I'll take psychographics over demographics any day. I'm not a big fan of big quantitative analyses, but
What's
I like
psychographics.
The psychographics is people's habits, the things that they prefer to do, their preferences, their presuppositions about things. And you only get at those things by having a conversation with them on a one-on-one basis. And so what was so striking to me about this community, and what I think we were able to preserve in getting them to a new platform and in getting them a dedicated community manager, Mark Schwenke, who's still over there, by the way, I'll give a shout out to him, is so many people, when I talked to them, they said, this community saved my life. I had to quit smoking because of, X health issue or whatever. And when I had cravings, I would come here because my family didn't understand what I was going through, but the people who were here totally got what I was going through. And for me, that was always, this has continued to stick with me for years now. That's the most powerful example of the good that these community spaces can do, because they enable people to come together and support each other in difficult situations. And that's a very stark situation where, your health, your survival is at stake. And if you are craving tobacco at 2 a.m. and you don't know where else to go, guess what? That community is on. And there were people that were dedicated to that space. They had achieved such a sense of belonging to that space that even past the point where they had quit smoking, so many people just stayed on, as I think they called them, elders, to continue to contribute to the space. So long example, but hopefully one that resonates and makes sense to some people out there.
Is it still in existence?
It is. In fact, they're doing very well. I just checked in with them a couple of weeks ago, and they are, their model of turning it into an active business where they're selling the program to corporations and to healthcare programs is going really well, and they're continuing to do clinical research based on this community. So they'll draw participants in some of their clinical work, and they get grants, based on that as well. So they are monetizing the platform, pretty well, but in a human way. That makes sense for everybody.
I need one like that for conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
I have no one to talk to. California and in Texas is kind of challenging.
I can understand that. Yes.
No, I mean, we trying to appreciate everybody's different opinions. It's for me, it's always better together if I'm able to associate with folks,
And that's your hashtag, better together.
Yeah,
right?
that's my personal thing. Yes.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. Everybody should be using that on all their community posts, better together.
Well, yeah, it doesn't apply to everyone. Some people like to work on their own, which is totally okay too.
Sure.
But,
sure.
Yeah.
So, so something that occurred to me since our talk on Tuesday, it came up as I was listening to the Seth Godin talk this morning, and the replay from the CMX event, and it was a comment. David Spinks was interviewing him, big name in communities, and one of the things that he said struck me as really true, and I think is a major trend, which is it is easier than ever to spin up a community platform, but harder than ever to build a community.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And reflecting on that, thinking about what I've seen is, so many turnkey platforms are out there now. You can get a Mighty Network platform going probably in 5 minutes, but there is the hard, necessary emotional work of figuring out who that community is for and how you're going to reach them, and are there duplications of this already out there, and all of those questions about community building. And so it's easy to get the tech going, but it's really hard to build the community. So that seemed to me to be I thought that it was a good summary of a major trend that I've been seeing over the past year or two.
Yeah, my thinking is that community strategies are very powerful, and it could be cost effective, but it's not an overnight success, and it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I got this vision for me. The easiest way for me to think about it. There's many different comparisons to what a community is. I like Rosie Sherry's definition that community is like a garden, right? It takes time. You have to put in effort, and if you don't do that, it could just die.
That's true. And I've always liked the garden metaphor for community building, because it's not just tending things, but it's also trimming and knowing, what are the weeds you got to pull out.
It's not easy.
It's not. It's the never-ending battle, right?
I have a very tiny green patch in my patio, and I was gone for a few days, and I'm like, oh no, my plants are gonna die.
Yeah.
I have to plan strategies next time when I leave for a few days on how these things will grow without me watering them manually.
Yes. So I haven't seen any comments in the stream yet. We haven't really delved deeply into any of the particular technologies at this point, but it's been a great discussion so far. I'm wondering if anyone on the chat wants to chime in and talk about if there are any community platform features that they're really excited about right now. I'm just going to throw out a few to you and see if any of them resonate, with you at this point. Let's see. AI enhanced search or moderation. Let's see. Well, I already mentioned turnkey community platforms. Improved analytics, AI focused analytics. Chatbots. Language localization. It's been around for a while, but I think we're getting better at it. Blockchain, NFTs. Easier, better integrations like with Zapier, or better API libraries. Virtual worlds or VR, AR. These haven't come into play yet, I don't think, very much, but I think they're worth thinking about. I don't know. Any of those kind of create a visceral reaction for you? Any that you say, oh, I don't think that's there yet, or boy, I really love that, or I think I've seen it done well?
You're talking to me, right?
I'm talking to you.
Okay. I'm all for it. I'm a super fan of geeks. I love technology. It's not easy sometimes, but my opinion is that any technology that I see in other sectors of society are eventually going to be used in community. So I am very hopeful, but I'm also not very ambitious, Todd, in that my space, my niche in community building is more on the people side, on the process side, on the organization side. As far as platforms are concerned, I built my first community on meetup.com and Facebook groups and text messaging. Those were the three amazing tools that I used 9 years ago. And we were able to build something out of that. So imagine all these new tools. On the corporate side, there's a need for more sophisticated and more efficient tools to make it more streamlined, right? And so I don't really have a lot of experience in that space, but I know that AI enhancements on moderation, the chatbots are already being in use when you do customer service. So to me, it's just natural that they're being used in communities. So why not? People are used to it. When they call customer service, you are dealing with some kind of AI and a chatbot. What blockchain and DAOs, those are the little that I know of it. It's, there's a big push for like DAOs are included.
Decentralized
Yes,
autonomous organizations. It's always a tongue twister for me.
are supposed to be built for the benefit of the community, and that's very exciting. And I've been trying to join that, but the virtual worlds will probably happen more on the industries that are currently using it now. Like I'm sure the gaming groups have that already.
Sure.
But on the enterprise side, on the corporate side, this sounds like if you use Geneva or Circle or any of those community platforms, it should help you, like Chorus and Vanilla and all that stuff. How you then the thing for me is, if you're already using those, then the next step is to be more efficient and more higher performing. And how do you do that? You do a combination of tools, and you do a combination of smart planning with how you organize your community team, that kind of stuff. That's my opinion. But I'm very excited.
I love so many things. Yeah, I love so many things about what you said there. So just to unpack a couple of them really quickly, and then we had a couple of comments that have popped up here too that I want to address.
I don't see the chat actually. Is there people?
You should see it in the upper right corner with the comments section there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
So you can kind of study the questions a little bit earlier. So one of the things that I love that you said is your earliest experience was building on some really simple platforms like Meetup and some text messages and things like that. And I think I think we've had the tendency to think about community as something that lives in one bucket. And I don't think that's the case. And I think you're right. It doesn't necessarily require a lot of sophisticated user experiences. It requires a platform that lets people communicate with each other. And if it's checking that box, that might be what you need to get community off the ground. You can always scale it to something else later, if you have to. I really did like that. And then there was something else you said, but I've lost it for the moment. I'm sure it'll come back to me. But just some really terrific insights that you did share there. I'm gonna pop this big comment up on the screen here. It's gonna cover our mouths as we take a look here. But I like the garden metaphor is one of my favorites too. I like what you and Tina think about the trimming facets of that. I find most communities fail to eliminate their weeds fast enough and stick with their techs even after it's clear they're not adding value. Lots of motivators for trimming, as well as which techs may need more tending over time that you would care to share. That's a really interesting question.
So I can share a little bit of experience. I volunteered with U.S. Digital Response, and it's techies that volunteer for NGO and government projects for COVID and other stuff. So because it was all volunteer, we had a huge mailing list, right? And then you had people that were kind of active, and then there were people that were volunteering. So how do you trim that? So we actually, one of the things that I liked is they continuously communicated with the mailing list and said, hey, if you're no longer interested, click this link and unsubscribe, or if we don't hear from you in 2 or 3 months, you're going to be in this dormant status. And then, so there was like a strategy to let people know that at any point they can re-engage or not engage. And if they don't reply, then it means they're being trimmed out, that kind of stuff. It was a very gentle way is open communication and asking the members to participate. And if they don't, they know that what's going to happen.
I love that. That's great. I also think, thinking about like when do you trim the weeds, and what are the weeds? My brain first went to like people that are toxic in the community. Let's trim those weeds out of there. But chop them out. But in terms of the technologies, and when you need to cut those out, you anytime you're implementing a new technology. So first of all, I would say, don't try to do too many at once, because it can be overwhelming and it'll be tough to measure those kinds of things. And don't implement a technology if you don't have some means to benchmark it or to track how it's performing over time. I think those are data-based decisions to make, to see, like, are people using the platform, using things like Crazy Egg to see where people are going to click, like heat maps. to see what's being used and what's not being used, or to see if there's confusion about them. So I think, and then other kinds of technologies, like something new, like maybe you're implementing something like audio chat or video chat within your community, and it's just not getting adopted. So rather than just ripping it out and saying it doesn't work, it might be time to go back and interview some people in your community to find out, like, what did you know about this as a feature? Was something not working correctly for you? Like doing some due diligence to figure out, is this a weed that needs to be pulled, or is it actually a really lovely vegetable that we just haven't cultivated well enough yet?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for posting the question. I'm not sure if you're a member of the community that you see tech that's continuously being used, even though it's not adding value to you. My guess is, in theory, the members should be able to communicate with the community manager to say, hey, just so you know, this is not working out, blah, blah, blah. In theory, they should be asking you for feedback. And if they're not, you should be able to give them feedback too. And if they don't do anything with it, something's happening, right?
Yeah,
Something's
exactly.
happening. They're busy or not interested or that kind of stuff, which is kind of not good for the health of the community.
Yeah. I see we're already running really low on time here. For the stream, I try to keep these to about a half an hour, so that if somebody's taking a little stop during their lunch break or whatever, that they can jump in on us. I wanted to do a shout out to Amadou Diallo, who was part of International Community Week last week. Hey, Amadou, great to see you, man. He added that his company uses Google Chat to build internal communities, and they also have a social intranet platform and news feeds. So again, these things live on multiple platforms. I like to think of it as sort of like the chambered nautilus. You've got all these different rooms, and eventually you get to sort of the center piece of it, which is your dedicated online community. But all these outer rooms are valid too, and they're places where you're building trust, you're building confidence, you're creating value for those members, and as they move in, it's really powerful. So one more comment, and then let's wrap it up here. So great references to constant communications and having those benchmarks in place before you introduce the possible weeds. Too many communities introduce shiny new features without really understanding how they'll impact community experiences. Asking for feedback is critical and isn't done enough. Thanks. Oh, Craig Fleischer. Hey, Craig. Craig is a colleague and actually part of a customer that I'm working with right now. So great to see you, man. And thanks for the comment. That's terrific. So absolutely. Yeah, I think keeping those lines of communication open with your community members and understanding how they want to use technologies within the space. A super important trend is that we're moving beyond, our technologies have moved beyond just the ability to have a community be based on text. And whether it's chat or whether it's more asynchronous, like a discussion forum, we've now got audio and video involved, and I think increasingly we'll see things like virtual worlds, VR and AR, coming into the fore. That's a new world. That requires a new set of digital literacy skills that many people don't have or aren't comfortable with yet. And so I think we'll be seeing some incredible change over the community platforms that we manage. Not only the fact that we've now got these abilities to have direct interactions via video, as you and I are talking now, but how do you moderate something like this? What if somebody becomes a bad actor in a video platform and you're recording an event? How do you what recourse do you have? Can you pull them out of the event? Or you kill your chat? I know Twitch has run into this from time to time too. So anyways, lots of stuff. Tina, did you want to leave any kind of final thoughts with everybody, or how they can get in touch with you or work with you?
Thank you for this opportunity, Todd. Love talking to you. Love hanging out with the LinkedIn community. You can find me on Twitter. You can Google my name. My blog is communitymanagementinstitute.com. I list there some of the courses that are available if you want more formalized training for community management. If you have any kind of business skills, you can take one of these courses, and some of them will help you find jobs in the industry as well. So that's really cool. If you have any questions, you can DM me on Twitter. And then also on Community Management Institute, I have a list of community management professionals. And I just got them from a Twitter thread. And ideally, I wanted to make a resource so that if I was in gaming and I wanted to know who can I learn from, or I was in healthcare, which community manager should I hire as a consultant, that there would be a place for you to go. But so communitymanagementinstitute.com. Thank you, Todd.
That is fantastic. Thank you, Tina. I always feel smarter after having talked to you. I appreciate you. All right. Well, that's it for another stream. Look for an announcement up for next Friday's stream. I'm not sure what I'll be talking about yet. I'll probably be doing a recap of some of my other events that I've been on. And in the meantime, please go visit Tina Amper's Community Management Institute. And I will see you here next week. Have a relaxing weekend. Take some time for yourself and remember to breathe, eat well, get outside, do some things, and take care of yourselves. I'll see you next week. Take care.
See you. Bye-bye.